for pictures with residents but wasn't wearing a mask.
Happy holidays!
Merry Christmas!
Food packages handed out to hundreds of laid-off casino workers. Most haven't had a shift since March. Light snow falling here in Windsor right now as we take a live look at the Ambassador Bridge. Might make the drive a little sloppy if you're out on the roads tonight. -3 right now. Colette Kennedy with the full forecast tonight. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. 191 cases of COVID-19 announced by the health unit this morning in Windsor, Essex, one of the highest daily counts that the region has seen. And now another outbreak at a hospital. The outbreak at Hotel de Grace Healthcare has grown to 58 cases, and Windsor Regional's Met Campus is reporting an outbreak of its own. With more, we're joined now live by CBC's Sanjay Maru. Sanjay, how many people have been affected at the Met Campus? Let's start there. All right, Sanjay, looks like we got a little bit of a technical issue there trying to reach our guest, Sanjay Maru, working from home tonight. Let's move on to our next story here as we look at the long-term care outbreaks that have been happening in this area. It was meant to be a festive event, but the village at St.Clair is now taking responsibility for letting its guard down on COVID-19 protocols. Pictures show a staff member dressed as Santa getting close to unmasked residents. And it comes on the same day that the health unit is reporting 101 cases at the facility. 61 residents, 40 staff, 2 people who live there have died. Jacob Barker with more on that.
These pictures are sparking concerns about how staff are carrying themselves inside the village at St.Clair. They were posted last week on the home's Facebook page showing a staff member dressed as Santa up close with residents, nobody wearing masks. This as the facility was on the precipice of what has turned into an outbreak of more than 100 residents and staff. The home called the incident a lapse in its surveillance protocols and that the person didn't follow their stated rules on proper PPE use. The home's management says it is taking disciplinary action and will be re-educating its team on proper use of PPE. The team member has tested negative for the virus since the photos were taken. Residents involved tested negative, except one person is still awaiting results. The home also says that its policy at all times is anyone other than residents must be wearing proper PPE when in the home.
Everybody's sitting like sitting ducks wondering.
The images worry Katrina Simonato, whose 75-year-old mother is in the home.
We love you, Mama. We miss you and we love you.
The last time she was able to speak with her was on December 4th. Today they finally reached a nurse, only after her sister called repeatedly every 10 minutes.
If there was staff there, like they're saying that there is, then somebody would be picking up the phone. Somebody would be there answering the calls.
From her understanding, COVID-positive cases are not on the floor where her mother is, but she says because of her dementia, staff haven't been able to keep her in her room as they have others in the home.
My mom can't speak for herself. She can't care for herself. She can't even dial 911. So we want answers. And where's the Ministry of Health? Why are they not helping them? Why is, this has to be everybody's responsibility.
Jacob Barker joins us now live in studio. You've been searching for those answers. The home says it's able to meet the needs of the residents. What's being done, though, to fill the positions left empty by staff that are in quarantine?
Well, Chris, we've been asking that question the last few days and got some answers today. The facility says it's hiring for those positions and that hiring is ongoing. The Ministry of Health say they are supporting the home in its efforts to shore up some staffing, and the home itself gave us an idea of what it's doing to fill those positions. 3 staff members are being brought on from the local health integration network, 25 full-time agency staff to fill personnel as personal support worker and nursing roles are also being brought on, and 7 office support staff are also being brought in for administrative tasks. I also asked the hospital, a hospital official, what the conditions were like in the home right now. She told me it's not normal, but she said nothing is normal right now. Chris?
Thanks for this, Jacob. The CBC's Jacob Barker live tonight. We have more on that story on our website as well, cbc.ca/Windsor. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has announced a new program to recruit and train staff for the province's long-term care homes.
We're investing up to $1.9 billion a year within the next 4 years to put 27,000 new boots on the ground in our long-term care homes. That is 27,000 new personal support workers, or PSWs, registered nurses, registered practical nurses, and other healthcare staff.
Ford says thousands more staff are needed at the provinces to reach that minimum care standard. That's an average of 4 hours of care for each resident. And while he promised to talk to employers about improving working conditions, Ford made no promises of increasing the pay for staff and personal support workers. Now, the issues around contact tracing came up at a health unit board meeting this afternoon. CEO Teresa Marantet saying that interviews with people who test positive for COVID-19 in Windsor, Essex are taking nearly twice as long. Let's take a look at some of the numbers here. There's 51 people, mostly nurses, who are doing case interviews at the health unit. These are the people trying to learn as much as possible about those who have tested positive for the virus. They're using medical systems to input the data. And they're looking at what medical follow-up might be needed for those who test positive, what symptoms they're showing, how long they might be infectious, and the big part here, who are their close contacts. That call during the start of the pandemic took about an hour. Now it takes 2 hours because contacts and potential exposures, those are happening more often. And another thing the health unit is noticing is that people aren't properly isolating after getting a test.
The nurse in that interview has to get every high-risk contact information on that person. So it's usually your household members and then any of the people you've been exposed to until you began isolating. So with a little bit of delay in getting your test result, and say and we've had this where people have gotten the test and then gone out and about. And so they should be isolating. So it really takes quite a while.
191 new cases in Windsor, Essex announced today. It's one of the highest daily counts that our region has seen. And another outbreak at a hospital. The outbreak at Hotel de Grace Healthcare has grown to 58 cases. Windsor Regional Hospital's Met Campus is reporting an outbreak of its own. Sanjay Maru is going to join us again here working from home. Some technical troubles. We got it sorted out now. What's going on at the Met Campus there?
Well, Chris, so far 8 people have tested positive. To break that down, that's 6 staff and 2 patients. And you may remember, Chris, last week, the health unit said it was investigating a cluster at the Met campus. Today, it's confirmed that these cases are indeed part of that same cluster. Now, Windsor Regional Hospital says there's no evidence to suggest COVID-19 spread from the 4 staff members to the 2 patients, but officials add both patients were in hospital when they tested negative for COVID-19 and then were discharged because of that. But after showing symptoms, they were readmitted a week later and then tested positive.
The health unit felt it was important to call an outbreak, and precautions have been taken. In fact, at the hospital level, we started those precautions when it started as a cluster, even before the outbreak was declared, with enhanced infection prevention and control protocols. And as of this week, we're starting to test all inpatients coming into the hospital on day 0 and also on day 5, so we can get a better idea of when they could have acquired an infection.
And Chris, this announcement comes as Windsor Regional Hospital just announced today it's rolling out rapid testing for its patients within the facility. They have capacity for up to 200 tests per week, and they say this new test, Chris, can provide results within just 1 hour.
Quite the change there. We also understand Ontario's hospitals are calling for new and stricter lockdowns in regions that are hit hard by COVID-19. What's the reaction there?
That's right, Chris. Well, the Ontario Hospital Association is urging the government to implement a 4-week lockdown in regions that are either in the red or gray zones. They say not doing that risks stressing and overwhelming the healthcare system. And I reached out to Dr. Saad, you saw there, and I asked him about that. And he tells me he's not surprised to see the association calling for this. He says that really the hospital is ultimately the tail end of what's happening within the community. And so it's no surprise that for the healthcare system to avoid being overwhelmed, the focus would be on stopping transmission early. We also heard from Ontario's Medical Officer of Health, Dr. David Williams. He says across the province, cases are moving in, quote, the wrong direction, but ultimately it's about individual action to avoid overwhelming the province's healthcare system.
The virus has shown itself to be very resilient moving through the population, especially with the public, some not adhering to the standards and choosing various reasons to set that aside. As you start to use up more and more of those ICU beds, less of other ones can get into those beds, and that means you have to start to curtail in some of the centers, the hot spots, so-called gray lockdown zones, the red zones. They are facing that challenge right now.
And Ontario Premier Doug Ford saying that he appreciates the Hospital Association's input and that he's in touch with hospital CEOs from across the province every single day. But the Premier did not today, Chris, commit to imposing any curfews or lockdowns of any sort. And when asked about specific measures he may take to mitigate the stress on the healthcare system, he said, quote, "Everything is on the table." Chris.
Thanks, Sada. The CBC Sunday Mari live tonight. The Ministry of Education is asking Ontario school boards to prepare for remote learning. They want students and staff to bring home any materials they need when they leave for the holidays this month, just in case school becomes entirely virtual in the new year. Now, here in Windsor, Essex, all students are already doing online learning for the week before the holidays after the order from the Medical Officer of Health last week. Now, that extended break, we're not sure if that will continue after the holidays, but parents we spoke with are concerned.
That's going to be terrible, because I have a first grader right now in school and I have a high schooler. The high schooler can manage and navigate through technology. She's at that age. But for the first grader, I'm literally having to sit with him right beside him to keep him focused and on work. And I have a job on my own. So like it's juggling really like a job and family and chores and online learning.
My boy is 9 years old, ninth grade, on the 9th grade. It's very hard for me to push him to study. You know, the boy at this age, he will rather lock the door and stay in room using his cell phones. So it's very hard for him.
Meanwhile, the federal government has revised its timeline for Canadians to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. The Public Health Agency of Canada now says all Canadians who want a shot will be vaccinated by the end of September 2021. That's months ahead of previous estimates. One infectious disease specialist calls it a big win.
If we can vaccinate anybody who wants to be vaccinated by September, it essentially means that, by September, we should really be looking at this in the rearview mirror. So every month that we can gain here is obviously a huge win for Canadians.
But as we've heard time and time again, the pandemic far from over. Gardam says Canadians should expect to see a bump in the number of cases across the country after the upcoming holiday season and a couple weeks into the new year. The 6 men accused of plotting to kidnap the governor of Michigan have been indicted by a federal grand jury. The men were arrested in October, investigators saying the men were angry over the Democratic governor's policies to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. 5 of the defendants are from Michigan, the other from Delaware. The indictment alleges that they surveilled Governor Gretchen Whitmer's vacation house and conducted live fire training exercises. Defense attorneys have said their clients were, quote, big talkers who didn't intend to follow through on the alleged plan. It's been nearly 2 months since almost 100 Little River tenants were forced to leave their building after a fire. Many have struggled to find a place while they wait for the green light to return, and some remain in limbo. CBC's Tamina Aziz reports.
107. There we go.
Tenants returned to the spot they called home to get a little gift from the company restoring their building. Although the gesture's nice, tenants are still struggling.
Hasn't been easy or fun at all.
Mohammed Kanafer used to live alone on Little River. Now he's staying with his sister, renting out her basement.
It's pretty hard to find a place in Windsor right now. No vacancies at all, and very expensive. So I'm not sure how long I can hold out at my sister's, but after that, it's going to be tough.
He says he's looking for a place to rent month to month, but most only offer 1-year leases. Tenants are expected to be allowed back into the building within 6 to 8 months. Another tenant says that's not long enough for someone to sign a lease. She says she's fortunate to be living with her parents rent-free right now.
I'm not working right now. I've been off work since March, medically. So it's only the one income in the house right now. So to try and come up with first and last month's rent and then have to sign a lease, nobody wants to sign because we don't know when we're going to be back in here. So you don't want to be stuck in 2 leases.
A third tenant says she's fortunate she and her children are able to live with loved ones until the building reopens.
We've been living in the county with them, and it's working out really good. I mean, it's inconvenient. It's a bit of a drive, but it'll be great when the apartment's back and we're close. But for now, it's working out very well.
The branch manager says he understands the difficulty they might be going through.
At the moment, we're early stages, but obviously next year, absolutely, we should be okay to have everyone back in. I'm just not sure exactly what time next year that'll be.
Tenants hope that sooner rather than later. They hope to move back in by summertime. Tamina Aziz, CBC News, Windsor.
Unifor Local 444 teamed up with the Unemployed Help Center this morning to hand out the makings for Christmas dinner to hundreds of laid-off casino workers. Most of the workers at Caesars Windsor have been off work since last March. Dale Molnar has more.
Happy holidays!
Merry Christmas!
The volunteers at the Unifor Hall on Turner Road were busy handing out turkeys, stuffing, potatoes, vegetables, and care packages to hundreds of people who lined up in their cars. The lines stretched down the street and around the block. The food came from the Unemployed Help Center food bank. The workers are having a tough time paying their rent and keeping food on the table.
Well, the struggle is real. Our industry has been decimated as a result of the pandemic, and we don't know what the new normal will look like, and these people don't know when we'll go back to work.
About 200 workers were recalled for about 4 months when the casino reopened briefly with limited patrons, but most of the 2,500 workers haven't worked since March.
It's been hard, not knowing what's going to happen, where, the paychecks, and it's devastating to everybody.
The food packages were well appreciated.
I could sure use it. This is good that they're giving out the food to the families and everything. Everybody could use this.
The casino turned down a request for an interview, but sent an email in support. It reads, "During these difficult times, we appreciate Unifor 444 reaching out to their membership at Caesars Windsor and providing them with a Christmas package that they can share with their families at this time of the year." The casino remains closed due to the lockdown. It will be closed until at least the new year. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Take a live look outside here now at the glow of the lights in the snow this evening. A little chilly out there. Colette will tell us how long those flakes are going to last. Finding a way to keep busy inside while keeping a language alive, and for a little prize money as well. That story also coming up. Joining us now for a live look at the weather is Colette Kennedy. I popped outside yesterday, did a little walk around the neighborhood, fresh snow and the lights. It was perfect, bud.
Yeah, just a beautiful, beautiful setup. I was saying I hope, or it'd be nice at least to be able to keep that snow all the way towards next week, toward the holiday. Nah, it's not going to be happening. But for the moment, so flurries and light snow coming down, and our temperature just hovering just below the freezing mark at -1, -2 in Chatham-Kent. You know, with the winds, they're not as strong. Look at this, under even 10 kilometers an hour. So certainly not as strong as what they were over the past 24 hours, but it gives a bit of a wind chill. So you still have to knock a few degrees off here. Chatham-Kent feels like -6, and I can show you the radar and some of that snow activity that we're seeing with the more of a north to northeasterly flow of the wind, not really associated with the system that dumped all that snow on the northeastern U.S., including just over a meter of snow in parts of New York towards Binghamton and even Pennsylvania. I believe it was in Litchfield that they had about a meter of snow there. So what are we looking at here? How about a trace to another couple of centimeters, likely at the most that we'll see? Let me play it out for you. I think as we go towards midnight, we'll start to see things really breaking up and backing off as well. And then into Friday, now the clouds are going to be a little bit variable at times, especially to start the day off. You can see this model wants to bring sunshine in before the next system arrives on Saturday. I am going with that, but I'll just tell you that there's a few variables in here that could give a few areas, especially closer to the lake, a little bit of extra cloud cover that may be a bit stubborn at times to start the day off. But into Saturday, the next system that's coming in, we get a bit of a mix. I mean, I know it'll be flurries at times, but like wet flurries. So this is why I'm saying with the temperature kind of going a little bit above freezing, it's going to be hard to hang on to anything. Mostly we'll see things melting. In terms of what's happening, see how this is just a trace to a centimeter, maybe 2 centimeters with what's happening currently before that ends towards midnight. Knock about 2 degrees off, so your wind chill, -3, it's going to be -5 Windsor, so Sarnia, how about -9? You get it. That's how it's going to work out because those winds aren't very strong. And then tomorrow, those temperatures are going to go, other than London, just a little bit above freezing. But this is what I mean by the milder air coming in with this system for the weekend. That's why it's more of a mix turning over to some showers here. Overnight low, even above freezing. Now into Sunday and Monday, could see some slippery areas at times, but other than that, it's just going to be a bit of a nuisance, Chris.
A bit of a nuisance. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
A pandemic curfew is going to be in place for France as its president tests positive for COVID-19. More on that next. president of France has tested positive for COVID-19, and it comes just days after the country introduced tough new pandemic restrictions. The city's famous avenues largely deserted after a nighttime curfew kicked in on Tuesday. People across the country must now be off the streets every night at 8, stay home until 6 the next morning. They can only go out for work, no other reasons other than official business. Medical reasons also allowed, though. The curfew will be waived for Christmas Eve. Family celebrations at Christmas is limited to 6 adults. The nighttime curfew will be back in force for New Year's Eve. The commissioner of the European Union says countries can plan to start vaccinations on December 27th. The EU still hasn't approved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, but that's expected to happen just before Christmas. The Boeing 737 MAX is one step closer to flying again in Canadian skies. It was grounded worldwide in March 2019 after 2 deadly crashes that killed hundreds of people, including 18 Canadians. Transport Canada has now approved some changes to the aircraft, but says other improvements are still needed.
We recognize the modifications that have been made to fix the problem with the MAX 8. However, there's still another step to take, and that will be done in January, when we will, as Canada, emit what we call an airworthiness directive. It means that we accept the modifications, but we also have some Canadian modifications as well. And those primarily touch on the procedures that pilots will use, some slightly different procedures, as well as the training, the simulator training that pilots will have to undergo.
In October 2018, a 737 MAX owned by Lion Air plunged into the Java Sea shortly after takeoff, killing all 189 passengers and crew. In March 2019, an Ethiopian Airlines flight crashed. That was outside the capital, killing all 157 people on board. Northern Manitoba First Nations found a creative way to get people to stay home while still celebrating the holiday season. That right there is 3 generations singing Silent Night together but apart, spreading some virtual holiday cheer in English and Cree. Looking to win a little prize money too, more than $4,000 up for grabs, all in an effort to encourage people to have fun at home, not going out, and keeping the language alive. Winners are going to be announced tomorrow. That's it for CBC Windsor News. You can find more stories online, cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.